So, I will present you a small work which is about the emergence of immaterial culture and its materialization. So I used a wiki as a base of meta-narrative space to tell this story. But first sorry, I'm French, so I will try to do my best to speak English. To introduce you, to explain you why I came up with this idea. So I have to tell you like a personal story. In fact, I'm always interrogating myself about traces, like why to conserve objects, and why to conserve souvenirs, and what is the sense behind conservation. And so, because like with the time, what is the sense? What to keep some objects, and why to keep on activating your memory and things like this. So to solve this little problem, I found two methods like I'm writing about. And I also collect objects, like it's not like I'm a maniac, but I have a collection of objects that I put in little boxes. And I started this in 1998, so almost 10 years that I'm collecting little objects in little boxes. And in fact, when I keep an object, it's only an object that helps me to remind a story, a place, an event, and things like this. And with the time, I realized that my souvenirs were not only relying on objects, but also on data, like photos and videos and things like this, that I keep in the memory of my computer and blah, blah, blah. And so from time to time, these boxes started to be less and less heavy. And then I realized that my souvenir started to be dematerialized. So from this starting point, my question was, but how we operate this transition from a culture of objects to a culture of data, of information. So that was the starting point. And because maybe, I don't know if it was like to reassure myself that I wanted to find some explanations, like, yeah, it's true that now our economic system is based on data, and what makes like data became economic value, but it's only virtual. But we have to admit that the virtual to exist requires material things like computer, like infrastructure and things like this. So last year I found this book, Blue Monday, and I really found like interesting elements to answer to this question. Like the starting question is how we make the transition from the culture, from a material reality to a virtual reality. That's the main question. And so in this book, I found some answers, and I wanted to present this book, but it was quite difficult because it's a book written in English, and all the elements that explains this story are quite difficult to explain just like in a linear way. So that's why I imagined to use a wiki to tell this story, because I was taking notes while I was reading this book, and I wanted to use these keywords to structure, to make a narrative structure within this space. So just to give you a small elements about this book, I can.
Is it non-fiction or fiction?
No, it's non-fiction. Non-fiction. I can. So this book was published in 2007 by. It was written by two American architects, and these two architects founded a collective called AUDC for Architecture, Urbanism, Design Collaborative. I can already show you some the website. From the book. So I found the approach of these two American architects really interesting because as architects, they decided not to build, not to construct buildings, but to build thoughts and realities. So it means that they never build anything, but they just use speculative research to interrogate the way human, like individual, interact with architecture, with objects, and things like this. So then I can come back. And so what is interesting in their approach is that they started from this book is a gathering of several studies, and so in fact it's about three stories, three site-specific in America, both one building in Los Angeles, one ephemeral city in Arizona, and the story of a film in Cleveland. But I focused only on the story of this building in Los Angeles. And what is really weird is to introduce the story of this building in Los Angeles. That they consider that this building somehow materialized the story of internet, and that finally what is virtual is materialized in finally something, and to introduce this study, they started with not an anecdote, but the story of a woman that married the Berlin Wall. So from this story of a Swedish woman that married the Berlin Wall to this building in Los Angeles, they told us somehow how emerged the immaterial culture. So maybe you cannot see the link now, but that's why I wanted to create this interface to give you the link and to enrich the story from the book by giving some comments, by adding some photos and some videos and things like this. And I wanted also, so I'm not going to tell you all about the story, just give you some elements, and what I would like is that you just go on the page and navigate on your own to somehow rebuild on your own the story. But I can just give you the main line of the story. So from the story of this Swedish woman that married the Berlin Wall, in fact they analyzed that the Berlin Wall was somehow the last heavy architectural barrier in our history. And but even before the Berlin Wall fall, we can say that there was no more material frontier, because even during the show a bit. So if you go on Berlin, then you can you have different elements, different possibilities to interpret this story. So okay. So for example, here you have I give the link to the story of this Swedish woman that really married the Berlin Wall. So then I can. The best is that you go on your own to.
Then your husband died.
No, yeah, he died, but just I need to kind of perspective so yeah, when so even before the Berlin Wall falls, we can say that it was the last heavy architectural barrier, and somehow the Cold War, we can say that it was not like a virtual war, but it was not exactly a war like the others, because there was no battles on the ground. It was more like a demonstration of powers between the United States and the Soviet Union, and so it was a demonstration of powers. But there was also the threat of the nuclear bomb, and this point is really important because if you imagine that with the threat of the nuclear bomb, that with the bomb you can erase and vaporize and make disappearing everything, then you imagine that there is no more reason to build like a heavy barrier to protect ourselves. So from this point, from this nuclear threat, the Americans first think that they should reorganize their territory, because if you imagine that the bomb, if all your production centers are localized in the same area, then you need to disperse everything, to disseminate everything. So from this point, in America, it was in 1956. They applied what they called the Federal Highway Act, which was a way to reorganize all the territory by organizing highways and new roads and transports and things like this, to disperse and to connect all the cities between themselves. And so you imagine what is worse for the transport was worse as well for telecommunications, because also the switching stations and telecommunication centers were localized in city centers. So then the American telecommunication engineers started to experiment a new system that could link all the cities, and so then they experiment new systems of communication, and they based this system. So what we know, the system we know now as Ethernet. This system was based on a system called AlloAnet, which was used to transmit data through radio wave frequencies, and these radio wave frequencies were propagated through ether. I hope I'm quite clear, because it's not really obvious. And so, just to to tell something about ether. It's pronounced like this in English.
Ether.
Ether. Ether in Greek mythology was the like one of the primary gods in Greek mythology, and it personalized the upper sky, the brilliance, and things like this. And so it's the myth. It symbolizes somehow the mythological environment in which swings in the universe. So, like for the metaphor, but it's the symbol of ether. And so, to come back to the book, the two American architects started their speculative research, relying on the theory of Antonio Negri, the philosopher, who wrote the book Empire, which was published in 2001. And in this book, Empire, he explained that the world is now ordered by new empires, and these new empires are the bond, the money, and ether. And they this philosopher localized these three powers in cities like Washington is the capital of the bond, New York is the capital of the money, and Los Angeles is the capital for ether. So why Los Angeles is the capital of ether? I just the best is that you navigate on your own after, but I just give you some elements. So Los Angeles is the symbol of ether because there is Hollywood in Los Angeles, and Hollywood somehow is designed as a giant set, giant stage, because with all because everything can be broadcast 24 hours and 24 hours in Hollywood. So somehow ether is the symbol of the media and telecommunication realm. That's what they explain. And so these two architects localized in Los Angeles a building, like a banal building, apparently. But finally, they analyzed through this building that it was the first one in the city center of Los Angeles. It was the first building which has been reconverted into a data center, because this building was situated close to a switching station. So it was like a good environment for connections and blah blah blah. So this building became a data center, and then many buildings around started also to be reconverted into a data center. And so the downtown of Los Angeles became rapidly a telecom district, or a digital hub, what we call the digital hub. So, finally, what I want to show is that from what we thought, from what is virtual and immaterial, finally we can realize that it could be materialized, that the virtual to exist requires physical infrastructure. So, and then going deeper in the story of this building, the two architects analyzed also that this building, which is called the One Wilshire, was owned by, it was the property of a big firm during 25 years. And in 2001, it was sold to another company, which is called Carlyle, and which is like a big firm in America, which has like many investments in research, in military development, in telecommunications, and things like this. And going deeper about the story of Carlyle, so I put some slides here. I don't know if you have seen the film, the movie Fahrenheit, the documentary film from Michael Moore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so I just put like a video here.
We wanted to look at which companies actually gained from Cumberland. Turned up this company, Carlyle Group.
So it's
The Carlyle Group is a multinational conglomerate that invests in heavily government-regulated industries like telecommunications, healthcare, and particularly defense. Both George W. Bush and George H.W. Bush worked for the Carlyle